My name is Kelsey Kenry, and I am a strategic business coach and a deep thought partner for mom founders, entrepreneurs, and CEOs. And today we are talking about the exhaustion epidemic. It is so common as mothers and as leaders for us to easily reply with, "How are you doing?" with, "I'm busy, I'm tired, I'm exhausted." Or if we have to put the mask on, we're saying everything's great. But a lot of times we feel like inside we are dying. Things are crumbling. We are unable to be fully present, and our relationships feel strained and just like we're working and working, and that's all we're doing. The issue with this is what we've done has worked. What we have done has allowed us to build financial freedom. We've built million or multi-million dollar companies by running them that way. But at a certain point, it just doesn't feel good. You recognize how bad you actually feel, and you see the effects of it in all areas of your life. So I want to tell you a little story about one of my clients. She's an incredible mom of three. And when she came to me, she realized that it was time for a change. As most of my clients do, they recognize that they simply can't keep growing their businesses and living in the way that they have. She was feeling really strained in her partnership with her husband, and she had three very small young girls who barely saw her. And when she was with them, she really struggled to be present because of the mental load that she was carrying from all the work that needed to be done. My clients are running businesses in which they're serving people, but they also have a deep desire to make a bigger impact. And so for her, stepping away from the business, stepping out of the business, taking breaks, turning off her brain from the business was extremely hard. Not because she loved overworking or carrying that mental load, but because she really cares about her work. And so, if you are like her and you have a business and you have poured your heart and your soul into it, and you have created something successful externally, and you're also realizing that all the external success that you've created is making you tired and making you not enjoy your life, then you too probably recognize that it's time for a change. And one of the things that we have to change is we have to change the way that we look at our fulfillment, and we have to change the things that we prioritize and what we believe should be priority. So, as business owners, because we've built great success by stressing ourselves out, by overworking, by overwhelming ourselves, by saying yes to any and every opportunity, we have wired ourselves to believe and have the data to see that when we do this, we get what we thought we wanted. And that's the key here, is that we are climbing and chasing and searching for all of these external accomplishments and forgetting that we can still have the external accomplishments, the achievements that impact the wealth without sacrificing ourselves in the process. So this client of mine knew it was time for a change. She knew that her greatest value was her family, and that she didn't want to be the person that was physically present and mentally elsewhere. So many of us mothers have experienced this, myself included, to where I've been sitting with my kids on the floor and my body has been there, but my mind has not. And while we can never be fully in every single moment, because I think that's an unrealistic expectation, I believe that presence can be a choice, and presence in our lives and the ability to enjoy them is something that should be a non-negotiable. And so I want to tell you one of the first shifts that we made for her. So once again, the problem here that's contributing to this consistent exhaustion is that we have built great success doing it a certain way. And so there is fear that if we change that way, if we do it differently, that then we might fail. And so for all of my high achievers, the thought of failing feels so much greater than the thought of changing, that we just deal with doing things the way that we have. And this is why you see people consistently repeating these behaviors. And this is why it has been so normalized to overwork, to work 24/7, to, just all of the nonsense that we see about hustling and grinding, and it'll all be worth it one day. But I think that is so one-sided, because at the end of the day, we only have right now. And so how do we learn to be present and in the moment and enjoy what we've built and the success that we have, while also honoring our ambition and our drive? And this is truly where I come in, because I am not going to ever tell my clients to tone down or take their foot off the gas necessarily. What I am going to help them do is strategically build the structure inside the business to be able to have time freedom, to be able to actually be present without feeling guilty, and to be able to continue succeeding, but without the self-sacrifice, without the strain on your relationship. And so the change that we have to make, if you are in this position with your business, you've built something extremely successful, and now what you're really craving is living. What you're craving is, okay, I know that I've checked all these external boxes, but now what? Here's the thing. The exhaustion that's been normalized in business isn't normal, and it shouldn't be. And as leaders and as mothers, it is our job to change it. So how do we change it? Where do we start, right? That becomes the question. We change it by slowly taking steps to prioritize our well-being, physical, mental, emotional, by prioritizing ourselves in small ways to show ourselves that it's safe and that we can still succeed and move forward in our businesses, while also taking care of what matters most to us. So we can't just upend and change the way that we're doing everything, because at the end of the day, there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to our lives and our businesses and our children and our families. There are a lot of things that do need to shift and change to get the end result. This is why you really need a partner like me alongside you to identify what those changes need to be. But a starting point for you is looking at how you can better prioritize yourself, and understanding that it will feel not great, that you will feel afraid, that you will feel like you might disappoint someone or let someone down, that there will be moments in which you will have to choose between yourself and your work, and you're going to have to choose yourself, understanding that the work needs to come after. That will be uncomfortable. But if we're going to change this exhaustion epidemic, if we're going to start answering the question of how are you, not just with I'm great and being emotionless, what we really have to think about is we have to do things differently. And sometimes that feels so overwhelming because of all the changes that need to be made. And this is why you have to just start with asking yourself the question of, what does prioritizing myself look like? And understanding that when you start to take these small steps, that it will feel uncomfortable and wrong. Because a lot of times, here's what happens. Business owners will recognize this need. They will recognize this need, that they need more sleep, they need more time with their family, they need more time for themselves. They recognize that they have no identity outside of their business. And then they're like, okay, so I'm going to do something about it. And then they try to make some change, but with that change comes the unsaid expectation that that change will feel good and make things feel better, without recognizing that it actually feels worse first, right? So a great example is, let's say that you have fallen out of a health routine. You have fallen away from your health journey. You are not taking care of yourself physically. And so what you want to do is you want to start incorporating movement into your days to feel better. With that intention, you would expect that that would feel good. You would be excited for it. And maybe at first you might, but when the alarm goes off in the morning and you press snooze, it doesn't feel so good. You recognize that in that short moment, you have the opportunity to keep a promise to yourself, And in that moment, you have to do something that feels bad to be able to have the long-term change of feeling good. And so that's the kind of changes that we need to make. And this is why people don't make them. This is in your business, in your life overall. When I had to take back my life and rebuild from rock bottom, there was nothing about the changes that I had to make that were exciting or felt good. I just knew that it was time to do things differently. And so in your business, if you have reached a place in which you recognize it's time for me to do things differently, the first step that you can take is figuring out one single way in which you can shift the priority to being you. Be that movement, be that morning routine, be that journaling, be that 5 minutes of no phones. My morning routine is locked in, and I believe so deeply in starting our days with ourselves because that sets the tone for the entire day. But you don't need to jump into something that is, 2 hours or getting up at 5 a.m., or maybe you do. But first, understanding that you need to pick one thing that prioritizes you over your work. And then you need to understand that when you go to do that thing, that it will feel uncomfortable, it will feel bad, it will feel like you're doing something wrong. You will have fear that you are going to let somebody down, that you will fail, and that you just aren't doing things the way that you're supposed to because you've always done things the other way. As mothers and leaders, we serve everybody around us. And so if we're going to change this exhaustion epidemic, what we have to do is we have to get honest about where we are. We have to commit to making a change. And we have to say, what is one thing that I can do to prioritize my own well-being? While understanding that when you do that thing, it won't feel good. But in the long term, what it actually creates for you is more peace, more sanity, more well-being emotionally. It can strengthen your relationships. And if we really step back out of the business and into our identity as a woman and not just a business owner, we recognize that isn't that what we wanted all along? Why are we building this wealth? Why are we making all this money? To enjoy our lives, to provide for our families. And so are we being just the provider, or are we being the leader? And that's the distinction that you have to make. How are you leading? Are you showing your children that the way to build great success is by not sleeping and overworking and not taking care of yourself? Or can we commit to, I'm going to continue to make an impact. I'm going to continue to grow and scale this business to new heights, but I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to do it in a way in which I am leading it instead of the business dragging me. That's the differentiation, and that's the choice that you have today to make. And while that can feel overwhelming when you're really far in and you're really exhausting, just like with my client, the best place for you to start is just in that one place of prioritizing yourself. For her, we implemented a morning routine. Of course, with implementing this morning routine, we took a look at her entire work schedule, redid and reshifted everything, set some clear new boundaries and standards in place so she could see that she could honor herself in the mornings and have peace and time for herself while also taking care of all of her other responsibilities. There is a strategic, tactical side of this that our brains can get lost in. And so I encourage you that if whatever you're going to commit to prioritize yourself, that you actually get on your calendar, on a piece of paper, and make sure that you are committed to that, as well as having some sort of outer accountability, because when you start something new, you definitely need that. So this is your call to change. This is your reminder that you don't have to feel like an exhausted business owner because that's part of success. Because at the end of the day, it's just not. It doesn't feel successful. You might be checking the boxes, but again, if you're crumbling on the inside, that's not true success. So thank you for listening today. Pick your one thing and the way that you're going to prioritize yourself. I would love to hear about it. Send me an email, shoot me a message, and I'll see you guys next week.